like to hear a little more about how your own experience of Fairuz outside of the book. Because people of different generations were all singing together.
Yeah.
So it's very. When did you first hear her, and how did it for both of you?
When I was broken by love.
No,
I loved.
before.
Yes, actually, yes, I loved very early. Yes, I was 10 years old when I first fell in love.
Me too. I think very young. Right?
Yeah. Well, the first time I heard Fairuz, I was very, very happy because her voice wasn't like Kulthum or any Arab singer.
Yeah.
She was like modern, and she was like a French singer or Italian.
There's a lot of jazz and classical.
The jazz is a late actually. But what actually, I think most of us always remember one song for her, and whenever for me it plays this song, it brings a lot. For me actually, في قهوة على المغفرة في موعد وفي نار نبقى أنا وحبيبي نفرشها بالأسرار.
And the words were like, poetry.
It's so poetic.
I want to ask you about that too, because we did we had a bit of a workshop on Kulthum as an inspiration. And there was,
she was different.
Yes.
Fairuz was different. And it reminded me of my when I was a teenager.
This is a scholar in me coming.
Tell me.
I know.
Yeah.
So the Kulthum songs we did were actually, the lyrics were composed by poets, right?
Yes.
Like poets.
But even this one.
And this one is actually, but these lyrics, right? So, wait a second. But I think the Rahbani brothers, right?
They were
the entire family, right? They write these lyrics,
Yeah.
and later in her life, her son,
Yes,
writing and the jazz part.
She developed actually. But remember also for the Andalusian poetry, and you have also for Gibran Khalil Gibran. She also so many things. الأخطر الصغير أيضا الأخطر بشار الحورية and everybody. So she sang a lot.
She sang a lot.
The voice is on its own, and in your book, she's listened to on her own. But in the case of Kulthum, there was a lot of concert. Actual, there's lots of footage on YouTube.
Of course,
emoting together.
It's like a heavy meal,
No, it's the same. It's the same.
So there's also a concert scene.
Yeah, but it's not. She doesn't have very long pieces like Kulthum.
No.
So it's look at Kulthum like having a heavy meal. And usually in our culture, you cannot listen to Kulthum, for example, in the morning. No. You cannot wake up.
You have to have two cigarettes of hashish with Kulthum. And one bottle of whiskey. While with Fairuz,
wine.
You can have, not even wine, maybe apple or whatever, because her songs were so light but very Lebanese. They present also the village life, and all the characters, the women characters in her songs are very naive. And they come from villages, and they live with nature. More or less.
Some of her songs, but there are
most
songs.
Of her songs,
I'll tell you what. For me, her repertoire is so rich that it covers almost every single bit of emotion you can feel, and
political.
And also there's a lot of scenery in it. Yes. We have political songs for her. And I was brought up on Fairuz. It always comes when you wake up and you smell the milk your mom is making, which is always burnt, as my mom, and Fairuz song. This is something.
But we all have different favorite ones, right?
Yeah, of course. For me,
what is the relationship between this lyrical singing voice and your own writing voice? I mean, obviously you used it dramatically here, but. It's kind of interesting because there's an intensity in the female singing voice of this kind of laments. You were looking absolutely suffused with pleasure as you were listening to the lament. I mean, there was no match of the emotions. You weren't like sitting. You weren't crying.
I'll tell you what. When I write, actually, when I write, I do live in writing. I consider myself. Usually, when they make interviews with writers and like that, and they say, you know what, I live with writing and that, and for me, literally speaking, it is through writing that I managed to live and survive. Otherwise, I would have been something else, a serial killer maybe, or well, anyway. So it's a kind of a murder. And there's a scene, and I'll tell you what, there's something here.
Treatment.
Sort of no. Actually, when I'm writing Muhmal, you know, I know Fairuz, of course, perfectly well, and I have all her songs, but yet I have to write, and the songs are playing in the background. And not only that, and sometimes there is a scene when you read it about the bed, when she destroyed the bed.
You just gave it away.
Okay, no, they can read it. They are professionals. They are professionals. So actually, she uses a sledgehammer, and in order to write this scenery, I built up some sort of a camp inside a living room, and I brought certain wooden pieces, and I brought a sledgehammer myself, and I started breaking them. And for 2 days, I could not even move my arms. And that's why Hawa, she stayed all night unable to move
it.
Okay. Now I'm going to ask you about poetics now, language.
Yeah.
So I'm going
because you read it in Arabic.
Yeah. And unfortunately, or I think fortunately, actually.
Yes,
Right?
great.
So, but I want to sort of like ask you about two things, right? One is much more the thematic things that we've talked about, and you know, and I thought when I was reading your novel, the paradox, right, of the rain imagery, paradox of Fairuz's music song works very well with the kind of camp life you're trying to sort of evoke, right? So one is rain is khair, rain destroys, right? And you hear, but at the same time, rain in classical Arabic is elegiac, right?
Yeah.
Right. So, and Fairuz in Fairuz songs, you have that the combination of elegy, like elegiac sadness, but also liveliness and energy. Right, so you've played with these, but at the same time you turn them around, right? For example, I was reading the rain song images, and I was thinking of the Sayyab and Shudakat Mata, and Mata, you know, life, circle of life, you know, revival, you know, you die and come back. But he is completely different. And the same thing with Fairuz song, so it's elegy. So that's question number one, and I want to ask you about that and the way you turn these structures of feelings around in your writings as you write about the experience of war outside and the experience of the parent. So that's question number one. And question number two is embedding these sensual, whether pleasures or patterns or song, sound, smell, sight into your language as you write, and making that into the rhythmic pattern of your Arabic. Right? So I want to ask you these two questions.
Yeah, well, shall we stop talking about Fairuz?
Yes.
Good.
Your work.
Well, there is a voice in me, I don't know where it is, which influenced me, inspired me to write. I don't know where this voice comes from. And I feel when there is a need to be poetic, I find myself writing in a poetic way. And when it doesn't, I feel that this voice will inspire me to write the way I should be writing. I don't think, I can't listen to music or before, while I'm writing or before. And when I'm writing, I don't have any music melodies in my mind or words at all of songs. I'm inspired by music in my life, in my daily life, but not when I'm working, or I don't get very inspired by music and by songs. Yeah, like for example,
so you have to have a quiet place to write
in my mind.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Both of you, of course, have made. I mean, it hasn't been mentioned because in a way it's a very strong characteristic of it, but it's the erotics.
Yeah.
I mean, you're both very well known for what was astonishing erotics when when Hanan first wrote, people were shocked.
Well,
you were
Yeah,
banned.
yes, I was banned
You were
actually.
banned.
I'm still,
Yeah.
one of
So
my
actually-
novels is banned.
So,
And I was
Yeah.
and that's
actually,
interesting.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm
Where?
banned, yes.
Where?
The first novel actually in Jordan and in
Jordan.
Kuwait.
Well,
Actually,
Jordan, they
and-
ban everything.
in Jordan and in
and
Kuwait,
Kuwait, they ban
and
everything.
certain parts. And when they allowed it in Jordan, actually, it's
Yeah.
very funny. You can buy it and you find
Yeah.
black spotches.
Yeah,
It's funny. So people want to know what's there.
Well, about
Yes,
erotic
yeah.
writing, I think it's the way, in my case, the way I was brought up. I mean, my father was very pious, but at the same time, the women and in my neighborhood, only neighbors, women in my family, they all talked about sex.
Yeah.
All the time, and I remember they used to wash clothes outside in gardens or alleys, and I was like 9 years old. A man came and gave his wife his trousers to be washed. She threw it away, and she told him, "Oh, you only take it off when it needs to be washed." And I didn't understand what she meant. And I kept asking everyone, what did she mean? What did Arifa mean? Her name was Arifa. What did she mean? What did she mean? And then later I knew. So they were giving examples all the time about even fruits.
One of my short stories, actually, when I wrote it about women, they would just remove their hairs. We use the sugar spade, and we were brought even kids around our moms, and they're almost half naked. And she would tell her, "Could you have a look? Is it clean or not?" I mean, those women would talk to each other, and I write about it. And one told me, "How can you write about these things?" I said, "I saw it. This is life. I mean, it's everyday life there." And in my second novel, قبل أن تنام الملكة, before the queen falls asleep, you have these women just look in the mirror and to watch each other's belly, look at us, and they would, just play with their bellies and like that. And it's very open life community. And I remember I saw almost naked women, which are coming at our home, just wearing, underwear. "Do you have a bra?" For example, "Could you please help me with this bra?" She would come in and like that. And so
they were very open.
Very open,
extremely
actually.
open.
And we the flesh thing, it wasn't that taboo, It has to do with, the politics of religion right now and all this together. But to answer your story about the language itself, I'm so in awe and respect of the Arabic language. And for me, part of my writing is to write organically as possible. And a lot of critics, I think even Sabri Hafiz wrote about that once, and many critics, that I have the ability to self-coin certain words and terminology, and it becomes me. So I use the things from the ground, from the air, from the things that we say and we talk about, and I put a twist on it, and I create things, and it's sort of legit. Because if you are a writer, if you want the language to grow and to prosper and to develop, you have to give it your own character.
Yeah,
so to give it,
of a good writer.
It's a kind of personalization. And about the inspiration of writing, especially for this novel, actually I dreamt of Hawa. I dreamt of her. I saw her image coming to me. It was years ago. I was sleeping at my mom's home. My father passed away 4 or 5 years ago, and my mom was in a situation that she wanted me to come to visit her on a much more regular basis. I became her mom, actually. And then I went, it was September, we call Aylul, Aylul, and I was sleeping at home, and thank God for this moment. That night, I forgot to close the window, and it rained for the first time, and we all can imagine the smell of the sound, the muddy, when it is first has water. And I saw the apparatus of Hawa. I saw a woman, actually. She was trying hard not to just tread on the mud, and she was covered with half muds. And I woke up like that, and I start writing something.
Amazing.
And my mom, she came, she said, "Why did you leave the window open?" I told her I forgot, but it was great that I forgot.
Yes, yeah.
It was really great.
But how much of the classical stuff or you've read in your mind, as patterns of language?
We don't feel it. I think we read it. It's like when you read a lot, it becomes part of your conscious.
Yeah, okay.
And it's on. And in قبل أن تنام الملكة, I brought you a copy, by the way, both of you. It's we have this beginning at each chapter, like بلغني أيها الملك السعيد. She would say, yeah, Shahrazad. بلغني أيتها الملكة السعيدة. So you will keep asking yourself, tell the half, who is the queen here? She's talking about. It's a mother telling her daughter her story. And it's the first novel, actually, I think it's one of the earliest novels that talked about the Palestinian community in Kuwait. You have 500,000 Palestinians, all of a sudden they vanished with their own stories and their lives. So in this novel, actually, it is even written in the style of storytelling, traditional telling here. Yeah. Yeah, I think it, yeah.
Well, I think that all the literature I read in Arabic when I was young and teenager and older, the poetry and even some manuscripts. I started reading Arabic manuscripts when I was 19 years old, only because of I was working at An-Nahar newspaper as a journalist, and every time I went into the office, my colleagues would say, "Hanan al-Shaykh ila Sibah."
عودة الشيخ
عودة
الشيخ إلى الصباح.
Hanan al-Shaykh to her youth, and they all laugh and laugh and laugh. So I didn't know what they meant. I went to my editor. I said, every time I get into the room, this is what they one of them will say that, and everyone will laugh. He said, yes, this is a manuscript. عودة الشيخ إلى الصباح. Yeah. And I said, oh, where can I read it?
Yes, like طرائف الأخبار فيما لم يورد في كتاب.
عودة الشيخ إلى الصباح. The return of the old man to his youth.
Yeah.
They meant,
and it's all about sex
sexually, and all the potions and what she should be having. And I remember there was a chapter on women as well.
Yeah.
Amazing. So when I read it, the editor brought it to me. I said, please, I want to read it. He said, okay, I'll get it for you, but don't say that I gave it to you.
You'll be amazed, surprised.
And then Abu Nawas and all
Even you read, Alf Layla wa Layla. First time I read about orgy, it was in Alf Layla wa Layla.
Yeah, but I didn't read Alf Layla wa Layla. All of it. Later in life.
The porter, she says,
the Hammal,
and it was amazed, it was really, I remember, there was, it was translated into Norwegian, and a Norwegian journalist told me that the translator, he felt so embarrassed that he wrote that I have no hand in this at all, and I actually acquit myself from this responsibility.
Yes.
So imagine.
What actually made it possible for you to start writing? Because women of my age usually had somebody who encouraged them. I mean, it was not such an immediately direct step.
But
be able to, take
But
up.
I'll tell you what, for me, now Hanan, she has her own, of course, goals and ideas, and each of us, we come with a certain, I don't say a message, but something in our hearts and soul drive us to writing. For me, what matters more is that as a Palestinian writer is sort of, to be sort of, I don't say iconoclastic, we have the imagery of the Palestinian heroism. It's so elongated and it makes people less human. And they talk about the camp, the Palestinian camp, as a place where people are just, hoarding their weapons and fighting. For me, I celebrate, the weakness of the peoples and to show them as true human beings. It's really terrible that you have writings and that transform the Palestinian persona or personality into a legend. I'm against making legends or creating legends. Let's celebrate the fact that they are human beings. And it's awful, it's awful because as a Palestinian, you should be always as a freedom fighter. You cannot fall in love. You cannot be sinful. Okay, you cannot make mistakes for gods. I can make sins and I can be sinful. I can fall in love, and yet I can be a Palestinian the way you expect me to be. So this is mainly actually what I'm concerned about, because usually they think that as long as you're a Palestinian, you are being just cornered into certain kinds of topic. This is one thing. And the issue now in the Arab world, as a writer, if you write about love scene or sex scene, it means you. But if a man writes, it means a man. You know what I mean?
I want to ask you a question. I wanted to ask you, when I read your novel, what about Palestinian? I mean, some Palestinian, did they say, "Oh, why did you write about the camp in such a way?"
Yeah, my mom.
Instead, your mom?
Yeah, my mom, she was there, my mom loves me a lot, actually. I'm more of a mom now, like her. And she comes, she says, "Huzama, you know what? I'm very proud of you as a writer." And, I was awarded the Najib Mahfouz Nobel Prize. And she heard my speech on TV and she cried because I mentioned my father. That when I took this, actually, as a Palestinian writer, I'm not into politics. And for me, as a Palestinian writer, writing is a means to safeguard our legacy, our memory, our stories. And I'm writing about my dad and my granddad. And she says, "I'm very proud of you. But I'm so upset that you made this Palestinian man just, abuse his kids." Palestinian men do not do that. I said, "No, Mom, they do that." Every man can do that. Every man can do that. It's not because he's a Palestinian, but because he's shit in his own terms, okay? And she said.
And did you, were you visiting this camp? Did you know anyone who lives there?
Thank you so much. This is actually, my father, I'm the second generation of the Palestinian refugees from 1948, and my father was brought up in a camp. And for us, in Zarqa, in Jordan, it's the oldest camp. Not only that, it's the oldest camp actually. And every year we would go there and spend 3 months. And strangely enough, it was the best time of the year for me. I'll tell you why. Because as children, actually, we do not understand the politics. We feel it's an open space, and you'll be amazed to know that my childhood experience is rather bizarrely around dead people, because some of my relatives worked as diggers, and they would go and dig graves for them for the sake of money. And you can imagine that I was 6 or 7 years old, and I saw the flesh of dead people, and I even touched them. And we would put those people inside, and I would help them bring water and that. And when I grew older, of course, I would ask myself, how on earth would they allow me to do so as a kid, kids should not be exposed to this kind of experience themselves. So, and when I started writing this novel, I have relatives in Al-Wahdat, in Al-Baqa, but I did a lot of research, and I did actually learn sewing. I went
sewing.
Of course, I had to learn sewing, and I went to a lady, and actually I spent a few days also there, and not only once, but I had to go so many times. I know the camp well. I know a lot of people there, and I lived in their houses, and I bought tons of velvet and tons of,
What color?
all different colors, and I had them all at home. And I once had a writing workshop, and I made those people, special writers, just to close their eyes and to touch the velvet and to go through it. And I not only read all about it, but I even went to merchants to explain how can they discern the difference between different types of velvet and like that. And so it took a great deal of work, research, and love, actually, I believe. And I took more than 2,000 photos, and what you have seen is some of the photos which I've taken for the camp. And I still have this photo for a few kids at the very end. They all collected, and they stood in front of their camera, and they just said that. And I just wish them, a better life in the future. just to leave the camp, to leave.
I mean, the question of velvet relates to Winshin's question about poetics.
Yeah.
And perhaps we could go back a little bit to it, because you haven't actually talked about the glow of the senses.
Yeah.
The title you gave
We'll have it, yes, as the translation, certain passages I have chosen for this kind of senses, because of there's the smell. You have the smell and the touch of the velvet, actually.
To those excerpts. Okay, maybe, it's about time we move into the
Translation.
To translation.
Okay.
The two of you, I have something, it's like 3:45. Do we need a short break?
Yes.
Yeah.
Let's do a short break and move the translation part, so you do a bit.
Can I just ask one more question?
Sure.
Apart from the glow of the senses, which will come up again in the translation, because both of you have a richness and a sensuousness in the actual quest for states of feeling through materials. I mean, this is because one can't describe feelings in the abstract, but you both developed a sort of body of, and by the kind of canons of today's in English taste, this is very rich language, very rich, and very bold in its attempt to. I mean, all the rain, you kept us to the rain, but when you were actually doing smells of the body and smells of the textiles, it's very. Was there any response? Was there any criticism of that? How did the translator respond to that too?
The translator, she was very impressed by the work, but as I said, especially for the rain and terminology, I had to help, because actually the rain, there are different, as translators, if you go, and I can show you, there are so many names for the rain that reflect the speed and the violence of the rain and the type of the rain, like al-matar al-wasmi, al-wabil, like torrents of rain. So there are so many terminology, and she would ask me several times, and I would help her gladly, of course, and she did. By the way, Kay did a tremendous job, brilliant job, because she has experience in her own right, of course, and she did her own research about the rain. And that's why maybe they were keen at the AUC to choose a translator, not only knows Arabic well, but willing to cooperate even, so that we can both come up with the best possible result. They say we have a saying in Arabic, al-mutarjim kha'in. They say a translator is a traitor.
Traitor, yeah.
Okay, but she is the best traitor ever, if we can say that. She is not actually. So, because I can give you the novel, of course, and each one can produce a legit one. And for the language itself, as I told you, for me it was very organic, and it's as if it was built in the same kind of the atmosphere of the novel. And all the senses, we talked about Fairuz, like hearing senses, and there's also the smell of the stagnant water. And actually, Hawa comes to appreciate the touch of velvet because she learns that from her mentor, the dressmaker, Sid Qamar. She even teaches her to touch the velvet and tell her, what does it smell? Does it smell like fruit? Does it smell like water? Does it smell like sea or anything else, you know what I mean? So she gives her some sort of a guideline how to smell things and to know the quality of the fabric from the touch itself and from the smell itself. Because a cheap fabric smells like plastic. Don't you buy polyester? It looks like plastic, it smells like plastic. And what about the velvet? The velvet actually, the basis is, silk.
Yeah.
So it smells like air, it smells like, incense, and she calls it the aroma. Even my translator, she did not use the word smell, the aroma of velvet. So it makes it much more sensual even, like that.
In Arabic we say aroma?
No, we say raiha.
Raiha.
She made it into aroma. And she actually, I saw that was a brilliant choice because it means a very good smell. This is the difference between a smell and a good smell.
Contrary to Huzama, in every novel I have especially senses, or the five senses with heat and desert and nothingness. Because of it's the way where where I lived, like in Saudi Arabia in the desert. So I wrote many things about, nothingness and the heat, and so you have, as if you are living for the first time, and no one is there, no animals, nothing around you. Yeah. No rain, only desert and heat, and
So because like with rain, I mean it's life, but also just does that mean it's stagnation for you? It's not really, right?
Rain. For me, no. For her, yes.
Yeah.
For me, not stagnation at all. No.
I said that it's supposed to to wash the scum and to clean the air, but here in this novel, in this context itself. But I want to go back to your question about our readings and the language, and also the language itself. It comes through our living, the kind of experiences we have. I do believe that Hanan has led a very rich life in her own, and for me, since I was born, I was exposed to many experiences in my life I did not choose actually, and I moved between different countries, and I've been to a war. I did witness firsthand the first Gulf War actually, and it's for the first time you think that the war is on TV, but then you live it. We always think that the war comes only on TV, until you come to be part of it and you are dragged.
Of course, they're part of war.
Yeah.
Maybe we should ask if
I think there's the lady here.
Yes.
So I'm so curious about when, through the process of translation, how you saw your character, if you're two in a dream, you know who your characters are, who your heroines are. You see them, you feel them, you write them into being. But then when the translator is translating, how can she or he, how do they imagine, how do they see the heroine that you've created?
Yeah, from the text. This text should be very alive, and the character should mean something to any reader. Yeah. If it's not like that, then the writer failed to portray a character which is from flesh and bone and everything.
I mean, before it reaches the reader, like the translator, it's the process of translation.
In my case, I have readers before it is translated, because I write in Arabic.